Hello and welcome, beautiful soul. Thanks so much for joining us for this cosmic guidance. My name is Angela Shakti Sparks, and I'm with my beautiful and amazing business partner, Amanda Korger. And together we are Heart Magic Healing.
Yes, and here at Heart Magic Healing, we are here to help you discover the transformative power of your intuition, to see your emotions as a guide, and energetically align to your desires in life.
Yes, beautiful. And today in this video, we're going to be talking about what anger and frustration can teach you, what they're here to show you. So welcome. And before we get started, if you are enjoying, please be sure to like and subscribe. And if you feel called and feel inspired by what we are sharing, we invite you to consider a heart-centered donation through Venmo. Of course, all links are below.
Yes, so anger and frustration. Wow. Anger for me has been probably the most challenging emotion to find that healthy relationship with it. Uh, and I feel called to just share, when I grew up, anger was really a hot. It was that yelling. Like my dad and I got into those yelling fights. Um, and so that's what I grew up knowing. And so then as I started to become aware of this journey, at first, I shifted and was like, "Oh, okay, I'm releasing the anger, so I shouldn't feel it at all." And that's not true either. And as it was a different form of resistance, I saw it show up in my life through my son, who would go from peaceful, calm to punching his sister in the snap, just like that. It was crazy how fast. And it was reflecting to me that I still had an unhealthy relationship with anger. So, if we are meant to feel anger, if I still needed to come around to finding that healthy relationship, why is it here? Why am I meant to feel anger? Because it is so uncomfortable, right? I hear you. I feel you. I understand and have been there many times myself. I know there was one day I was talking to my sister-in-law and I was like, "Have you ever noticed how strong you are when you're angry? Like, I hate push-ups and I can knock out like 10 push-ups when I am at some of that peak anger." And that's maybe one way that if you're looking for a way to help you safely feel anger, I'll throw out there that physical movement does a great job of helping that very strong emotion through your body.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
yeah,
Excuse me, and thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so anger was also a huge part of my life as well. And same thing, uh, yelling matches with my father, yelling matches with all my partners in my earlier relationships. And I love that you brought up how it can be that creative force, because it is a very energizing force, right? And so learning to direct it is a great way. And workouts, I used to love doing kickboxing, was my way when I would to get that anger out in my kickboxing classes. I would, like,
yeah,
think of the things that were
yeah.
frustrating me and punch it out. I was punching it out. So that's a really good. And also just I just wanted what's coming through to, other ways that to get it out is, when I started becoming more aware, when I would have these conversations that started to turn into arguments with a partner, I began a practice where I would actually have to I would excuse my, I was like, okay, we just can't talk right now because I'm not in a place to talk. Clearly, I'm starting to yell, so I just need to go take a minute. And then I would go to the other room and I would do what in yoga is called the lion's breath. So that's where there's an energy medicine when we call it expelling the venom, that you like gather the energy and you bend over and you stick out your tongue, and it's like, and you just do that until until it kind of makes you tired, honestly. So it's almost like that
Mhm.
physical activity, but you do it until it releases, and then you can bring your hands here, and this brings your calmer thinking brain back online. And so if you have this tendency in relationships, maybe and maybe discussing with your partner, right? So you don't want to just walk out on and be like, hey, we get in these arguments sometimes. So if it happens, I'm going to try something different next time. I'm not always in a place where I can talk calmly. And so if we get to that point, I'm going to go to the other room and just do some breathing, you could tell him, right? And then just incorporate that as a practice in your relationship.
I love how you brought that up, and, communicating when you're in one of those calmer states of, "Hey, this is something I'm trying to do," and because I think so many times when that anger comes up, we often do things that maybe we kind of regret or feel bad for later, and then we are in that needing to, repair type of thing. But if we can find ways to feel that emotion, because honestly, if that anger is coming up, that conversation isn't coming from your heart. It's not coming from what you really want to come through. It's not as productive. And so I do feel like what part of what we're being asked to highlight here is the importance of feeling your emotion and really truly letting that emotion through in the moment, and then coming back at a later point in time when you feel more neutral to identify why that anger came up for you, or frustration or bitterness or whatever. There's some that are kind of related here. And so maybe you resonate more with the word frustration or bitterness, or maybe you even resonate with resentment. Maybe that's how it shows up for you. Um, but feeling that emotion in the moment. I had a really tough internal conversation with myself very recently. And one of the things that's been coming through for me is I'm being asked to practice being peaceful or calm within the chaos, like, especially with my children. And it was one of those moments in which I was not the peace or calm. And that reminder came into my head, and I heard it. And the response back was like, F off. Like, I wanted nothing to do with that right now. Like, I needed to just notice where the anger was. Was it a clenched jaw? Was it tight fist? What was happening in me right now? And then later on, after that anger was through, after I had done whatever I needed to help it through, then I could come back and be like, okay, what came up this time? What's here for me? What do I need to know about this anger? What do I need to see? What do I need to hear? What do I need to feel about it, right? Because it is here for you. And many times, the biggest message from anger or frustration for me is showing me what's out of alignment. Angela, do you notice that as well in your life, or what do you truly notice for you?
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. So what I noticed, or what's coming through right now, is one I wanted to just briefly touch on. So I had a friend who said, I don't do anger. And I think we
Mhm.
forget sometimes, again, that these other frustration is a form of anger. So anger doesn't always have to mean it's that full blown rage and, that it's super intense. But all these other levels of it are still, I almost say it like that frustration and that bitterness and resentment, they're like really sneaky because they fester under the surface. And it is said that breast cancer, one of the main causes is it's resentment that we hold on to because we are overgiving in our lives and not asking for the things that we want. I know for me, one of the things that comes up with anger is if I feel like I'm being controlled, like I'm not being allowed to live my truth or be my truth or say, if somebody's trying to control me in some way, that definitely brings up that anger. So, a little bit around my personal boundaries. Also, frustration for me tends to come up when it's like, and what's coming through here is, really start to become aware of what your self-talk is. A lot of times I'll get frustrated, and what I've been thinking is these really self-critical thoughts, things, like I should be doing more, or it's like sometimes I don't let myself relax during and just enjoy a day because I feel like I'm always supposed to be doing something, and then I beat myself up if I relax and don't do it, and then I get frustrated. So it's just this
Yeah.
little cycle. So I think that self-criticism is another one. Like, what ways are you getting frustrated, or maybe even having some bitterness and resentment towards yourself because of expectations you're putting on yourself?
Expectations. Yeah. Yeah. Expectations. They play a role in so many different things. And how often do we have an expectation in life too, right? And many times it feels like maybe things are working for a while. Like, I think this almost ties in expectation and when I was saying, like, showing me when things are out of alignment. Like this past year, my kids were at a school that I was so excited when I found this school. And it felt like it was helping them so much. And I'm like, expectations of, yes, this is serving it. Like, they're going to continue being there. And then in January, a whole bunch of things came to the surface for me, things that had happened. It was coming into my awareness in the moment. And an actual recent one around something that was happening at the school. And what came up was we called a meeting that was open to all of the parents and the owners. It was a small school, so it didn't have the full like structure that many are familiar with. And we had this meeting, and going into this meeting, I very much centered and grounded myself going into the meeting. And I was like, show me everything that I need to know and to see and to hear. And I have since added, show me what I need to feel to this. And during the meeting, even though I went into it as centered as possible, I felt this anger come up, and I was literally there, like, shaking in my seat with this anger coming through, and I was trying to do different things to, like, calm my nervous system, things that I could do in the spot that I knew worked, and it wasn't working. And the most interesting thing happened, that as soon as the meeting was done, my energy started to go back to center. And I'm like, whoa. I noticed how quick the shift was when we had separated, we'd left the meeting. Like, wow. And I went and I sat with, why is this here? And it was that this school that I went into loving and so excited about was no longer right for us. I needed to leave. I needed to get my kids out of there as soon as possible. Yeah. So sit with that. Things that maybe we had expectations for and did serve us for a while, maybe aren't meant for us anymore. Anything else that's coming to you, Angela, about why anger is maybe here for us?
Yeah, it's just keeping that, it's sometimes around boundaries, right? So where are you, noticing what triggers you, when those triggers tend to happen, and then taking a look at what, is there a need that's not being met? Is there something that you're not asking for? I think one of the things around bitterness is, it's say somebody keeps treating you the same way or holding the same expectations of you, but you're not speaking up and you're not asking for what you want. And then that bitterness just continues to fester underneath. So again, taking a look at these places where, maybe it's not the big rage, but it's that nagging frustration, that underlying bitterness, that resentment that maybe you don't even really consciously realize is there. So starting by noticing again, what are my triggers? When do they happen? And then what am I, not asking for, or what is that boundary that needs to be set, or just taking a look at what is underneath that, and then doing something to shift it so that you don't just keep living with these patterns and living with that resentment and bitterness and frustration.
Yeah, and maybe one of the ways to help you find those boundaries are also like, where am I saying yes when I really mean no? Whereas maybe I'm speaking one thing, but inside I'm feeling something different. And is that leading you to that resentment or bitterness inside?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, so hopefully found this helpful.
Yeah.
Also, there's smash rooms too if you ever want to go get some anger out. Those ones where you go and you break stuff. I did it before where when I was working on trying to get rid of my anger. Oh, and I guess just one more thing. If you're an empath, sometimes you pick up. So my father was very angry, and I realized later that it was his anger that I was taking on for him. And so I did some clearing. So I would punch pillows and yell at the top of my lungs when nobody was home. Um, and I'm talking this, I was in my 30s when I did this. It was like when I was starting to work on clearing that anger out of my system. But the smash rooms are also another good way that you can get that out.
Yeah, finding those safe, healthy ways to get that emotion through. Yeah, it's the best for everybody. For everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful cosmic guidance discussion on anger, frustration, and resentment. We trust that you have received whatever is best for you, and begin to ask yourself some questions about your anger and why it's showing up for you. Thanks for joining us. See you soon.